Hey, welcome to Transform Your Workplace. I'm your host, Brandon Laws, and this podcast exists to help leaders build teams where people can do great work and feel great doing it. Practical tools, candid conversations, and ideas you can put to work the minute the episode ends. Today's show is sponsored by Xenium HR. If pay is fuzzy in your organization, Xenium's compensation design team will help you clarify a compensation philosophy, build an equitable, consistent structure, and benchmark roles with reliable market data so you can make competitive, defensible offers and communicate ranges with confidence. That's expert guidance plus structure you can actually use, so compensation becomes a strategic asset, not a headache. Learn more at xeniumhr.com. Now on to today's guest. It's Nir Megnazi. We're talking about leading calmly when everything around you is changing. In this episode, you'll hear how to avoid 3 common stress traps: freezing, frantic multitasking, and micromanaging, and swap them for presence, better decisions, and trust. You'll learn a simple name it, feel it, pause loop to turn reactivity into response, how competence and genuine care earn real followership, and a practical way to measure leadership growth by tracking the frequency of specific behaviors, not just vague vibes. We also get tactical, shaping one-on-ones, defining success with your internal clients, and tapping each person's uniqueness to multiply team outcomes. If you want to steady your culture that performs at a higher level, this conversation is your field guide. All right, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Nir Megnazi. Nir, it is such a pleasure to have you on Transform Your Workplace. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure as well.
I think a lot of organizations were leading through uncertain times. We probably could say that for the last 5-6 years or forever. The reality is we're constantly going through change. And I know for you, you coach a lot of leaders, and I know you try to get them to lead calmly in uncertain times and under pressure. Do you think leading in a calm manner is rare these days?
Yes, I would say yes. Mostly because the rate of change is finally above our tolerance overall, on average, I would say. We would talk about the rate of change for years. Oh, rate is becoming, change is becoming faster and it's overwhelming, blah, blah, blah. But leaders could handle it. So it was more of a marketing phrase. But today, what we see politically, geographically, AI interruption, I feel and see more leaders who are a bit overwhelmed and stressed. And most of all, they don't really know what the next step is. What's going to be tomorrow? The rate of change is finally reached to a place where they feel stressed, overwhelmed, and the amount of uncertainty is overwhelming more than anything else.
For those leaders that are overwhelmed, they're stressed, I imagine that has an impact on the culture, the people that report up into them. Like, what sort of behaviors have you seen with those leaders who do not operate in a calm manner?
I think 3 main categories. One is people who freeze. They just stay in their lane. Okay, I need to hold on to what I know, and I cannot manage what I don't know because it's just too much. So they just close their latches, they bunker down, and they just operate on what they can. So they're not responsive to the changes. And that all comes to the need to feel in control, especially in the face of huge uncertainty. Second behavior that I see is getting heightened emotions, like shouting, yelling, being highly restless. So the way it might show up is you sit with the leader and they're constantly on their computer or on their phone. They're trying to do everything at the same time. They don't listen to you. They're not present. And I think 90% of my clients, when they come to my space and clinic and they say, I want to improve, 90% of them say, I want to have leadership presence. But when you're overwhelmed and you're restless. You can't be present. You have to practice that. You have to develop presence in the face of stress and overwhelm. The third behavior that I notice is micromanaging. They know what they need to do, but again, from the sense of I need control.
Yep, absolutely.
I need control, so I go and micromanage. Why? Because I have the fear of something being wrong and we don't have the margin to make mistakes. And this is a high visibility project, high visibility job. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to get hurt. And guess what? The job market right now is not so favorable, right? It's a hires market, not an employees market. So what do I need to do to get the job done, to keep my job intact, and maybe be hireable if there's another round of layoffs or there's some reduction? So the focus is on me, on my controllability, on my hireability.
Yeah, everything you're just talking about, this seems like, well, humans are messy, and when we operate in a sense of fear, the emotions come out in the worst ways. I think there's a way to harness emotions or use them to our advantage in a lot of different ways. I think acting emotional is very different than talking about how we're feeling with our team and our team members. From your perspective, should we as leaders be embracing our emotions and talking about it with other leaders, our people that report up into us? And I'm curious if that creates a sense of trust and engagement by doing so.
Yes, we should, right? Should we talk about all of our emotions? Not necessarily, it depends on the situation. But let's go back to the first part, which is, should we embrace our emotions? The reality is that they exist. Whether we want to embrace them or completely ignore them, they exist and they are in motion. They're like lava under the surface, operating all the time. You can ignore them as much as you want. Guess what? At one point, there's going to be a trigger that will make this lava overflow and puncture the surface. And then you get a volcano eruption. And you don't want this volcano erupting at work, with your team, or with your managers, creating havoc. So what we need to do is embrace those emotions early and be aware of them. And you said something beautiful, Brandon, that we don't need to act emotionally. What does that mean? Let me just spread that or dive into that. You can feel your emotions. Doesn't mean you have to act your emotions. I can be angry. Doesn't mean I have to act angry. And anger is one of those crazy emotions that people want to stay away of as much as possible, because when we were young, we didn't have this buffer. So how did we act in anger? No one sat with us and said, hey, it's okay to be angry right now. I know this kid took your toy and, now we're angry. It's okay. Let's sit down and be angry. No one taught us this. No one sat with us. Mostly, if someone did, then he had a great parent, right? But I did not do this with my kids because I didn't know better. So how did we show anger? Physically. We would throw things, or we would hit something. And we developed this fear, and we were told this is wrong. This is wrong. So we developed the fear of acting angrily. And now we think that feeling angry is dangerous. Why? Because I might punch someone. But can we feel angry and not act angry? For example, being with one of our employees or saying something while being angry and saying, hey, I'm really angry right now because we said that this has to be delivered at this time and it is not ready, and you violated our agreement that you will tell me up front what's the status. That makes me angry.
How do you teach leaders to build that level of emotional resilience? Because like you said, a lot of us aren't taught as kids to be able to talk about how we're feeling. They rather just act on it. Those kids grow up to become adults and we still haven't learned those skills. I know you coach a lot of leaders. How do you help them build that emotional resilience so they can then talk about their feelings instead of act on them?
I love how you phrase it, emotional resilience, because that's the outcome. That's absolutely 100% the outcome of this work, this emotional work. You don't teach them. I would move away from the word teach. You expose them. You help them relearn how does it feel to have an emotion. Most of us are led by our brain, our survival brain. I just want to survive. Our brain is master of coming up with a plan on how to survive a situation. And by the way, when it can't, this is where we find the traumas. This is where we find the panic attacks, where our brain cannot figure out how to survive a situation. So it all starts with, can we first identify how we feel and name it? Most people cannot feel from the head down. They're so focused on their brain. So the first step would be, can we just feel our body physically?
Yeah.
Just how am I feeling right now? And approach this question from curiosity, not from knowing. So how do I feel right now in my body? So we're having a conversation right now. I'm standing, so I can go in and ask myself the question with curiosity. Hey, Nir, how do you feel right now? What is happening in your body in this moment? I can feel the energy because I love podcasting. So I can feel the energy in my body right now. I can feel it in the tips of my fingers. I can feel the energy. There's a small contraction in my chest because it is always when you're interviewing and people are going to watch, there's this fear, what would people think, right? So I can feel this tight contraction over here, butterflies in my stomach. And there's also this energy coming from my pelvis all the way up. I didn't notice it before, but now that when I'm noticing, this energy shooting up. And I already know how to recognize this energy of doing and sharing things that are meaningful to me. Great. Step one, I just recognize what is happening to me. Step two is I ask them, what emotions reside in you right now? And people usually start with, oh, I think. So don't think. Observe. When people ask us, this is the most funniest thing. It happens to me as well. I do it as well. Many times. People come to you and say, hey, Brandon, how are you? What do you answer, Brandon?
Doing well.
Right? Doing well. But is this how you feel?
No, there's more specifics, but I think it was so transactional with that question that you're going to ask me a transactional question, you're going to get a transactional answer back.
Exactly. And even if people ask you, hey, how are you feeling today, Brandon? Oh, good. Great. Thank you. But is it really good? Is it really great? I think, or I want to assert that we don't know how we're feeling if we don't stop for a second and check. So Brandon, let's do this exercise together. Okay. Would you play along with me?
I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay. Brandon, I would like to invite you to be curious first and go into your body and observe what emotions reside in you right now.
Anxious, high energy. Those are the things that are coming to mind. A little bit of stress.
So let's be accurate. Do they come to mind or have you observed them in your body?
I observed them because before we even got onto this call, I'd paused actually and reflected a little bit. I'm like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling right now? I even talked to my wife a little bit ago. I'm like, got this weird anxious feeling. Don't like it.
Beautiful. And let's put a pin on I don't like it and get back to it because it's critical as well. So you had to reflect and see what is happening in my body physically and emotionally, and now name it. Oh, there's anxiety in me. I'm anxious. When you can name your anxiety, then comes the next stage, which you already practiced. What's at the source of this anxiety? There's a reason why I'm anxious right now. And every emotion has information for us. And when you ask the right question, you will find the answer. So you don't have to share with the audience here, but that's a great question. What is at the bottom? What's at the source of this anxiety, Brandon?
I didn't start my day with a list of my top priorities like I usually do. So when I don't start a Monday the way I usually do, that's where it feels like everything's overwhelming and I don't have enough time for anything. And that's where the anxiety came from. I'm actually pretty introspective when it comes to that, emotions and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. So I have no problem with it. I know a lot of leaders do have a problem with it because if you think about it, they go through uncertain times or situations they haven't been in before. It's uncomfortable for them. And they often are reacting to whatever's being thrown at them. And like we were talking about earlier, like the anger, it could come out in anger and acting that out versus pausing and reflecting the way we just did here. I mean, do you see that with a lot of inexperienced leaders often where they're responding to what's happening to them and not even understanding what they're feeling?
I see it with highly experienced leaders as well. Yeah, CEOs, VPs, executive VPs at all levels, all industries, because we're all human. And the way people progress through the job is usually through getting results, but there's very small reflection about how did they get the job done? Is it just results? I wish we would have in all industries, we would add this question of, well, how does their team look like? From when they started their role to now when we're considering them for promotion, has their team gotten better engagement scores, better retention scores? Have they done their work of not just getting results, but growing a team that gets this results? And not just these results, but better and better results over time. That's how I would measure a great leader. And because we're a result oriented culture, this team part gets neglected. And those people climb the hierarchy of the corporate. And you can get VPs, executive VPs, CEOs that lead through micromanagement or anger issues. It's all top down. There's no bottom up. They're not open to listening. And some of them are successful, especially when they're geniuses and the core business idea is okay, is successful. But is that sustainable over time? I would assume that not. So I think that piece of recognizing our emotions real time. And the more you practice it, you can start with a coach. The more you practice it real time and you can identify those emotions real time, now happens this beautiful part that Stephen Covey talks about, that between a trigger and an action, there's a pause, there's a space for decision. And that assumption is great. It is accurate when you can identify and name the trigger and you can identify and name the emotion. Because if you can't identify the trigger, you can't identify your own emotion in real time, there's no decision. You just react. And my goal for leaders is to shift them from reacting to a trigger or to the environment, whatever is happening in the environment, to responding to the environment. And that only happens when you're being triggered and you can say, oh, there's something very uncomfortable in me right now. Let me pause for 5 seconds. Oh, I'm angry. I'm furious right now. Someone has violated one of my values. Whatever the reason, I'm furious. And I know that when I'm furious, I tend to shout. So maybe now is a good time to shout. Maybe. But it can be a choice now. Or maybe I can just breathe and say, you know what? This makes me very angry. Tell me, I'm curious, why did you choose this way? Tell me, why did you decide to act this way? What made you choose not to report back what's the status right now? Now we responded in a proper way with the intention of furthering the work, maintaining the relationship, versus just, Brandon, I told you that you should report back if something goes wrong, but now it's too late and all the damage. Ah! I've seen this happen with my own eyes with senior executives. Blow up, just blow up.
Yeah.
And it's because the lack of capacity for their uncomfortable emotions. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
I'm really curious. You've lived a couple different lives. So you were in the Israeli army for 23 years and then decades as an Intel engineer, your leadership coach. I'm just curious how your experience shaped the way you think about all of this. Did you experience something? Were you curious? Did you observe things that, most people wouldn't observe that shaped the way you think about leadership?
I think my first encounter as an officer in the army with soldiers in a combat unit shaped how I look at trust. So my first time or my first couple of years in the army went through leadership courses and commanding courses. So when you command the course, the people that are in the course, they will do everything you say. Why? Because they're in a course. If I decide, can throw them out. Then I finished my officer school and went into a combat unit. Now in a combat unit, people know that they're expected to fight. So they don't really care, I would say beneath the surface, they don't really care what your rank is. They expect you to lead them into battle, into a life-threatening situation. What is required from you in order to lead them into battle, to give an order and for them to follow? So my first day in that unit, I told them, hey, 8 o'clock, I'm going to be at this place. And I go there 8 o'clock and I have my new ranks. They're polished on my shoulders. And I'm so proud of myself that I'm an officer. Wow. And then I stand there and it's 8 o'clock. No one comes.
Wow.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. I'm not used to it.
They don't trust you yet.
There's a guard that is walking there in that shed that I told him to be there. And he's looking at me and I can see the smile on the edge of his face. Like, okay, something is happening. Okay, 8:01. They're not there. And I can start to feel that rage in me. Why don't they listen? This is the army. They have to obey my orders. 8:02, 8:03, and I can see that guard smiling ear to ear, enjoying seeing me alone there waiting, embarrassed, completely embarrassed. Around 8:04, 8:05, you start to see a trickle of soldiers coming to that shed. And they're, they have their cigarettes in their hand and they're just talking to one another. No one's in a hurry. They're 5 minutes late. And I just blow up. Where are you? I told you to be here at 8 o'clock sharp. And you don't listen and I will court martial you. Da 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 da. And they just say, hey, Greenie, chill out. It's okay, we're here. And I just didn't know what to do. Really, I didn't know what to do. And it took me time to understand that for someone to follow you, to choose to follow you, I think this is the key thing. You're not a leader. You cannot name yourself as a leader. Those who follow you choose to follow you. So for people to choose to follow you at work, during your military service, they need to know two things. One is that you know what you're doing. That you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, at least you're talking with them. So as a team, you know what you're doing. And the second thing is that you care for them. Only once you establish, and in the military, if you're a professional, it's super important, but also that you care for them. And only when you established that you're a professional and that you care for your people, they will choose to follow you. And they will follow you under fire, whether it's bullet in the army or there's huge layoffs or huge project change right now. And everything you've done, you have to scrap and start over in a shorter amount of time. If they believe in you to lead them to success, they will follow you because you care for them and you're professional. And it doesn't have to be that you're a professional in what they do, but you're an overall professional. You understand what's happening. You know how to make great decisions. You consult where it needs to be consulted. Only then they will follow you. Otherwise, they will just perform their job and take care of themselves first. They will be first priority. You and the job will be second priority.
I imagine the competency part of that equation is probably easier to come by. I mean, most leaders probably get to where they are because of competency, and they get these raises and promotions because they did something really well. And they get to that level, and I think showing people that you care is a lot harder to do because it requires daily actions. How do you coach the leaders that struggle with this part, where they aren't sharing with their people that they care for them and showing them in words and behaviors? Like, what steps do we take to build that?
What surprised me the most, I think, in my entire coaching career is that probably 98 of the leaders that I coached actually deeply care for their employees. They care because if you take them to their home environment, they care for their spouse, they care for their kids, they care for their family. People like to go out with them to have drinks or for a restaurant. They have best friends and people enjoy their company and they make great jokes. So there's a shift between how they are in the home environment, not always, but how they are in the home environment, how they are at work. So the component of stress and overwhelm and the rate of change and how we're uncomfortable in those environments that impact how they show caring. Because caring is a high function of our brain and our humanity. And you cannot care, honestly, you cannot. It's hard to care when you're in danger. You first have to fix the cause of danger. So if we're late to deliver a project, I would first focus on delivering the project. And that restlessness and stress would be the first order of impacting how I lead versus, oh, there's also a team to take care of so we can get to these results. So first we unpack that. Where are you right now? What is stressful? And then we go deeper. What is your job as a leader? Mostly say, get results. Minority of them say, oh, I have to take care of my team. Okay, great. But if you're stressed for your milestone, are you actually taking care of your team? No, actually, I take care of the milestone. Okay, great. So usually milestones and work stress precedes taking care of your team. And if we understand this truth that your job is not to get results, it is the output of your actions, but it's not your job. Your job is to enable the results, is to enable and grow a team that gets the results, that gets the job done, and not just now, but in a growing pace in the future, because none of us can get all the job done on our own. I don't care how smart we are. I don't care how smart we are. I think I was fortunate from the beginning of my career to never be the smartest person in the room. There was always someone in my team that was way, way smarter than I. So I was humbled really quickly. Great, beautiful. Thank you for the lesson. And when you understand that, it's how do you harness the power of the team to get results? And then comes the question, what do I need to do as a leader to help bring all that amazing human potential that we have to work? What's their uniqueness? Each person's uniqueness. What's the gap to the top of their potential? And how I can support, create an environment for them to tap into that potential and bring it to work. And then you get 10x results. And I'm not exaggerating. You get 10, sometimes 100x more performance out of the team because you have an amazing team and you had a great leader that knew how to tap into the uniqueness of each member to get the job done, even more than that job. And beyond even the scope of the team, which is what I usually see, that teams, they break through the boundaries of their team, they reach out to other teams, and they start building things that are way, way beyond their scope. And then you get to this 10x performance, 100x performance of a team.
Do you think the job of a leader like starts at the individual level, meaning like the one-on-ones we have with our team members, the questions we ask, the barriers that we remove so our team could do our best work? Does that start at the individual level or does it start at the team level?
Let me start by saying that the role of the manager is probably the most complex role in a company. When you're an individual contributor, you have your job, you have your outputs, you have your proficiency. That's what you do. You have the skill, you can have just technical skills, you can have minor relationship skills, minor communication skills. Great, that would good enough. Now, when you become a manager, now you have clients. Now you have to deliver to someone delivers to you, you have a manager. So you need to acquire so many skills to perform your job well. Most of them relationship and communication skills, by the way. And then as you climb up the ladder, strategy skills, influence, etc. So managers need a lot of skills. And I think to build a great team, you first have to understand what is your job as a manager, as we covered before, but also what does success look like? And what I like to do is in every role that I've taken as a manager, and I shifted a lot between teams, is start with my clients and ask them, what does success look like for you? What's your biggest challenge in that success to achieve that success? And how can I help? And then we shift from this by the book role of this team that is documented in some document that no one reads and is somewhere in the repository. And then you get to define what your team does. What does success look like for our clients? And if we as a team can make our clients happy and successful, then we're successful. Now you establish that, you establish one part of the relationship. It's us with them. Then you go inwards with your team, and you can work with your team to define how do we get to that success? How do we help our clients become successful as a team? So you set the North Star of the team. And it's not about measuring, KPIs or OKRs. They're beautiful. They're a great tool to supervise the work and to name that North Star, but usually people use them as technical milestones to nowhere versus Our OKR, our objective, is the success of our clients. Now our key results is how do we get to that success? Now the entire team is organized around those goals. And because the goal is the success of the team, each team member can make their own decisions without going to the manager because they understand what success looks like. So they can ask this easy question. Will this right turn or left turn help my client be successful? Yes? Great, take that right turn. I don't need to ask you. That's the goal. And then we can go to the third layer of getting to know our team and how they each fit in that goal of helping our clients be successful. What do they bring? Their own uniqueness, their own gifts, their own proficiency that can amplify all that. And sometimes we would learn that, you know what, their place is not in this team. Actually, our sisterhood team or another team can get a better use of the skills of this person. And if not, if that is not possible, you can be creative. Let me tell you a short story. I managed a team that supported another design team. We're a software team supervising a tool, and we had to deliver that tool to the design team. And the success for the design team was we want to work flawlessly. Too many bugs, blah, blah, blah. It's hard. The recovery time is overwhelming. We're wasting time here. And I had this one person who was at risk. My manager came to me and said, this person is at risk. If they don't improve, don't get better ratings, etc. And at that time, I was clueless. What can I do? He's a great person. I love this person. He's a great addition to the team. How can I find that thing, that person that will help him be successful? So I just went and asked him, hey, what do you like to do? What really gets you up in the morning and you enjoy doing when you're at work? Even if it's 5 minutes out of the entire day. And he said, I love coding. Love coding. I said, okay, what do you love about coding? Oh, it's how you put things into beautiful structures. How do you code them in a way that is readable, that can be replicated, that is high quality? I said, okay, would you like to be our quality champion of our team? He said, yes, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I said, good, I'll match you with a mentor that is a genius in coding and coding quality. So for the next month, we need to drop everything. Keep 10% of support. I need you supporting your area. But take the next month and go and learn. In a month, come back. Give me a plan of how we're going to increase 10x the quality of our team. And that's what he's done. And I would see him in the next month coming to work early, leaving late, happy.
Wow.
Happy. That's how you see happy people, even in chaotic places, because they're on a mission. They have something they can do. It taps into the thing that they like. And he came after a month with a plan how to 10x the quality, the results of our team. And when he presented that to the team, code reviews, etc., they were against it. No, too much. That will slow us down. And I told them, we're going to give it a try. He worked really hard. I believe in what he's done. He's done the research. We're going to try it for 2 months. In 2 months, we'll have a checkpoint. Then we can shift. But for 2 months, we're going to apply everything that he said. So within these 2 months, we applied everything and we did our first drop of code after the quality checks. And guess what? We had 0 issues in the drop for the first time in years. They got an award for the cleanest drop ever. Everything was working out of the box. Our clients were happy, really happy. And then I could take that achievement of that person and raise his rating and keep him safe. And he kept doing that and improved that and enjoy. So that's an example of how we can tap to the uniqueness of each of our employees and 10x our outcome because of that.
I want to end with this because you've talked about results and 10xing. There's a lot of organizations that will throw money at leadership development, coaching, all to get results, right? And we know that the manager plays a key role in results, but also the culture of our organizations. How do we know that we're actually getting results from the money we're spending on leadership coaching, training, and development, and that our leaders are actually making an improvement from where we were before?
I would say that it seems hard, but I don't think it's actually hard. So we need to peel the onion on what are we actually paying for. when we want to transform leadership, what we mean is we want to transform leadership behaviors. So when you go and interview a coach, any development program, you need to understand what are the behaviors that exist right now in the company. What are the new behaviors that you want to see from leaders that would get the results that you want, which is, okay, better sales, better quality, whatever, and that's a big and highly performing, motivated teams with very low undesired attrition. Because, there's a project right now, there's going to be a project after that. So we need to focus on behaviors. And behaviors can be measured by their frequency. Some behaviors already exist, some do not exist, but we want to promote those behaviors. So when companies try to engage with leadership development companies or coaches like myself, they need to ask or come up with, here are the current behaviors that we see, or explore what is seen, what are the new behaviors, and then measure the frequency of those behaviors before the program starts and after the program starts or after the program ends. And the way to measure the frequency after the program ends is you can just change the questions a little bit of what change in frequency of this specific behavior are you seeing with your manager. And that thing, when I used to work at Intel and run the coaching program there, that was the question that showed the difference in the transformation in leaders. Yes, I'll just give one example. My manager values my opinion, even if it's different than theirs. That's a very specific question. It's a behavior. And we saw, if I remember correctly, 81% of the employees report higher frequency of this behavior. Now you can back translate to all the big words that we use today in workplace culture. This one question indicates inclusion. My opinion is different than others, especially from my manager's opinion and perspective, and they value my opinion. That is the feeling of inclusion. That's the feeling of belonging. That's the feeling of being valued. Now, if an employee feels that within the team, there's no ceiling to what this team can do.
I love it. Nir, I've had such a great time chatting with you. I love your philosophy. There's so much more we could have chatted about. For listeners who want to go deeper with you, learn more about your work and some of your other content, like where's the best place to connect with you, learn more about your work, anything like that?
Always on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn, Nir Megnazi. And on my website, www.nirmegnazi.com, you can sign up for my newsletter and get my pro leadership tips through there. And always through my email, directly connect with me, nir@nirmegnazi.com.
My guest today has been Nir Megnazi. Nir, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brandon.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning in for today's episode of Transform Your Workplace. The content on this show is strictly for general information and educational purposes only, so that you can go transform your workplace in a positive way. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show are the guest's own and don't represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of either Xenium HR, the sponsor of the show, or me, the host, Brandon Laws. Additionally, Xenium HR or myself, Brandon Laws, doesn't endorse any guest, their business, or any organization they represent, so discretion is advised. We encourage you to work with a trusted advisor to find a custom approach that fits your organization's needs. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode.